Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, your one-stop destination for intriguing conversations with extraordinary individuals who are boldly navigating life outside the conventional norms. Our host, Scott Fullerton, is thrilled to embark on this journey of discovery with all of you. The Left of Str8 Show, we believe that every person's story is unique, and it's our mission to showcase the diversity of human experiences. We bring you the untold stories of fascinating people who identify as LGBT+ and allies, pushing boundaries, breaking stereotypes, and making a positive impact in our communities. On this show, we bring you a diverse lineup of inspiring guests, from activists to artists, and entrepreneurs to entertainers, and everything in between. We dive deep into their personal journeys, discovering the pivotal moment that has shaped their lives and careers. You can expect thought-provoking discussions on a wide range of topics, from LGBTQ rights, social justice to arts, culture, mental health, and more. Our guests are change makers who share their insights, challenges, and triumphs, igniting conversation that promotes empathy, understanding, and love. So whether you're part of the LGBTQ community or an ally looking to expand your knowledge and show your support, the Left of Str8 Show is for you. Together, we can build bridges of understanding and acceptance, celebrating the beauty of what makes us all unique. So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for the show.
All right, welcome back, my loyal listeners. As always, this is Scott Fullerton, your host of the Left of Str8 Show, where we celebrate the diversity of our LGBTQ community and our fantastic straight allies. I love bringing you some of the best interviews around with celebrities and personalities from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. Today, I've got a real treat for all of you reality TV fans like me, as I welcome to the show the handsome and engaged duo from The Amazing Race Season 35 that's running right now on CBS. Mr. Joe Moskowitz and Ian Todd are in the house. We're going to talk about the race around the world. We've seen that Joe brings his wit and fly by the seat of his pants charm, and Ian brings attention to detail and planning, along with that killer smile, to every challenge they faced so far. Following in the footsteps of some of your favorite racers, these New Yorkers bring the fast pace of the city and the tenacity of two accomplished businessmen to cities around the world. They've gained both gay and straight fans as they race to the finish, including this podcast host. So I'm excited to talk to them and share about their personal journey, along with hopefully a few race trips or true. Please welcome to Left of Str8 Show for the very first time, Mr. Joe Moskowitz and Mr. Ian Todd. Gentlemen, how the heck are you?
What's up, Scott?
Hey, Scott. We're doing great. How are you?
I am so excited to talk to you. I'm enjoying this season, so kind of fun to talk to you there. And you guys just seem like cool guys to hang and have a beer with. So how's it going?
Yeah, we love having a drink with good people. So always down for that.
There you go. Well, congratulations on the great season. You guys are representing yourselves so far very well. Of course, we are in the middle of it. I think we're only a couple episodes in, so you can't talk about much. I can't know much, so we'll keep it on the down low, but we'll do what we can, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That was our mantra on the race. We'll do what we can.
There you go, right? The best you can do.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the first thing I ask all my listeners, 2 questions to every newbie on the show, is I like to start out with where did you grow up and what kind of kid were you growing up, Joe?
I grew up in Suffern, New York, which is about 35 to 40 minutes north of New York City.
Upstate.
So Ian calls it upstate, but it's really on the Jersey border, so it's actually not upstate. Anyone who's been to Suffern, we always are fighting that. And it was a great smallish town. Always been around New York City. What kind of kid was I? I'm the youngest. I have 2 older siblings. Pretty tight family, but I was the golden child. I had it the easiest. My siblings have been through all of the trials and tribulations, and so
everyone calls him Joey. He gets everything he wants all the time. He is the true youngest kid in every sense of the word.
I could do no wrong.
The apple of his eye.
I love that. Ian, what about you? You're kind of from my neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincy,
what up? No, Cincinnati was a great place to grow up. What kind of kid was I? My mom and dad had me at a pretty young age, so they were always more like older brothers and sisters to me than like parents. I would go everywhere with them, including work. So yeah, I would say I grew up really fast as a kid. Very studious, kind of kept to myself, wasn't terribly popular. Yeah.
There you go. But now look at you now, engaged in on a popular TV show. What the hell? And second question I ask everybody, you guys are fantastic, openly out, engaged couple. When did you first come out to yourself, and where do you think you kind of found your first LGBTQ tribe?
I'll go first.
Maybe you can start.
Yeah, I'll go first. I've been out longer than Joe. I probably came out to myself when I was 17 or 18, and then came out to close friends and my immediate family at around the age of 20, 21. Really found my tribe, I would say, in my early 20s. One friend that I've had, particularly my best friend Steve, I've known for over 20 years. He is like my big brother. But yeah, have consistently grown that tribe since then, and my chosen family are very much family to me. And I've got like 5 or 6 incredibly close friends that are like my brothers. And yeah, that's my story.
That's awesome. Joe, what about you?
Let's see. To myself, I would say at some point during college years, I was, I guess, kind of suppressing all of that during high school years. So yeah, let's call it like 19-ish maybe. And then, to my immediate friends and family, that was more like 25 when I was like 25 years old. It was wild, by the way. We were all down on this trip to my friend's parents' house down in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we were pre-gaming to go out that night, and so the music was loud and all my closest friends were there and just having drinks. I literally turned the music all the way down and made a full announcement.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about putting the spotlight directly on myself. So that's how I did that.
It was a group of like 15 too,
yeah,
right?
like a group of 15 people, and just kind of like
all his fraternity brothers.
I like blacked out when I did it, but I remember seeing certain faces, and it was just absolutely wild. My heart was like pounding out of my chest, but then it turned out to be an incredibly fun night.
And he's still
too much to drink that night.
And he's still friends with all of them today. We see them regularly here in the city. Most of them live in New York still. So it's a pretty tight-knit college crew that he has, and they're all very open to, Joe and his.
Yeah, most of my college friends are straight, except for my best college friend who I met first day freshman year, who turned out to be gay as well. We didn't know all through college about each other. So that was a fun little development that occurred later. But yeah, I think, being in New York and my earlier New York years, kind of sneaking away and going to a Hell's Kitchen bar.
Not Hell's Kitchen.
Something like that. I kind of developed this really, really great group of guys that we're still super close with today. And, some of us have dispersed a little bit, but, we have a great group of friends here in New York. What an amazing place to kind of go through that journey, that part of my life.
I bet.
Yeah, Joe was lucky, Scott, to come out in New York City. I, on the other hand, was in Cincinnati, Ohio. So
right, yeah,
different.
Definitely different.
I just had on, one of my friends was on the other day. I grew up outside of Columbus there, and same thing. It's like, Ohio is so weird. I've been here now for 20 years. I'm from California originally, and I've just seen it go from purple to red to red to red, and now it's like Trump sign every 5 yards, and it's like, oh my God, I'm over it. So I hear you. It's a lot different than New York City and California was.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love that story. Same way, my best friend all through high school had no clue both of us were gay. Then we find out afterwards, when I find out he's married now, and it was to a gentleman, and it was great. It's like, you had a clue, but it was cool. Well, and talking about that, you talk about you being out there. You guys, before the race ever happened, this is right up your alley. You guys both love to travel, it seems. I see travel photos from all over the place for you guys. Have you always had that kind of joy in traveling, or where did that love of travel come about?
I'll speak for myself. Yeah, it's part of our ethos, both of us, and I think that was a big attraction to one another when we first started dating, is our love of traveling, and even more so getting off the beaten path in those travels, right? Going to those niche places that most people don't take the time or have the opportunity to go to. So it's not necessarily just traveling. It's really trying to understand a culture by getting into the nitty gritty of it. But yeah, I think growing up, we grew up, we meaning my family and I, grew up definitely on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. And so traveling wasn't a big part of our life, right? A vacation to us was camping in the woods. And so I decided when I was a young kid that when I had enough money and really made it for myself, that I would take that opportunity to see the world. So it's always been kind of a big part of, my evolution as an adult and where I choose to spend my time and money. And I don't think that that'll ever change. And luckily I found a partner in Joe that feels the exact same way.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a similar story. Growing up, my family, while we went on family trips, they were typically to, Ocean City, Maryland, or Long Beach Island or something like that. It was never international travel. And then, coming into my own means as a young professional in New York is when I really started to experience different cultures, international travel with friends, sometimes solo. And then, our early dating was always just comparing travel notes, where we've been, what we loved, where we'd go back, where we'd go back to, and where we want to go coming up.
That's awesome. I was like the same way. My dad was a vice president of a bank and very much a cheap ass. I mean, rest his soul. But he would go on trips with the bank all the time, so he'd take us around. So we went like Hawaii 3 times. It was mostly U.S. travel, but I really enjoyed getting to get the travel bug, and now I enjoy it so much. So I love when you have those adventures and when you have a partner to share it with. So congratulations, guys. That is awesome.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, our travel is definitely on the adventure side, and as Ian was saying, off the beaten path. So much so that I think that it's a hard sell to get even our closest friends to go with us on some of these trips, just because
they're not real vacations.
It's work. It's definitely work.
Extreme travel. I like it.
It's like, let's wake up and see the sunrise after a 3-hour hike. And people are like, what?
Wait, how long is this hike? Why are we in the middle
we got to talk about your engagement a bit. I mean, a 6 a.m. engagement, it's like, I haven't had my coffee yet. We're not getting engaged at 6 a.m. It's not going to happen.
That's why no one will see the photos. The only photos that have surfaced are ones that were a couple hours after the actual engagement. We redid them.
Yeah, they looked pretty bad. I didn't think that far ahead. And
right.
I wouldn't change it even if I had to redo it. My goal was that we were going to be in this very magical place in Thailand. No electricity, no cell service, very remote, kind of in the middle of this national park on a floating hut in the middle of this lake. It was so picturesque. I had actually been there before with my best friend. And while I was there, I knew that while I hadn't met Joe yet, I knew this was such a magical place, and I could see myself proposing to the one when I find that guy. So it was, while the pictures weren't great, it was a moment that I'll never forget. The sun was rising. It was foggy. The fog was like coming off of the lake. Like, it's forever etched in my memory, and it's perfect just because it's so us. We were like in the middle of nowhere. Like, yeah, the lighting wasn't perfect, and we're not glamour shots, and our Nalgene bottles are in the frame, but like, that's just us. Like,
yeah, that's very true. It was very, very, very authentic, Joe and Ian, for sure.
Adventure life is messy, guys. I mean, we've all been doing that camping and stuff, but just the romance. I mean, I saw a couple of pictures that you did post, and like you said, beautiful setting, so amazing. Now, talk about Thailand. You end up having to go to Thailand on the race. I'm Mr. Sentimental. I would have wanted to go back to where I got engaged. And of course, you have no time for any of that. But was there any advantage to being in Thailand before? I mean, you're talking a remote place, and now you're in the city, obviously. So talk about that, going back to that. Was that kind of still a little magical?
Definitely. And I think, it was probably the first, 2 hours or so from the race actually beginning at the Hollywood sign that we ripped open that envelope that said fly to Bangkok, Thailand. And so that was kind of, I think that was the second envelope that we ripped open in the race, but the first one that actually had a location, an international location. So to see that was a really cool moment. I mean, it was already magical because holy hell, we're on the Amazing Race. This is so cool. And to see Bangkok, Thailand, which is already a super special place to us, the whole country is, was a really awesome thing to have happened in that moment.
Now, was it advantageous, Scott? No. Bangkok is so big already that, like, even because we flew into Bangkok, but we only stayed for 2 days. And so there's so much to see that, like, in 2 days, you don't even scratch the surface of a city as big as Bangkok. And then you're right, like, most of our trip was spent in the rural areas and, like, the off the beaten path areas. And the race does focus on some of those locations. And you kind of saw that in the second episode where we really get outside of the city. Unfortunately, the area in which the race went was not the area of which we traversed when we were there. So unfortunately, no advantage.
Unfortunately, Ian didn't make me a bouquet of lotus flowers after losing his shoe in the water. So no, it was not that advantageous.
That's hilarious. That was an interesting challenge for people. But talk about, I mean, I kind of read where Ian, you being the planner, I'm sure you guys were putting it together, whose strengths and whose weaknesses are what. What did you find that you thought was a strength that maybe wasn't a strength? And what did you find that you thought was be a weakness? It's like, shit, I did that.
I'll let Joe start, Scott.
If you ask Ian that question about me, his answer is probably going to be navigation.
Oh, say it for the people in the back.
Listen. Let me defend myself. Okay. Let's talk about getting to LAX for a second. We were phenomenal at getting to the historic Biltmore Hotel in downtown LA. Phenomenal. First one's there, loved it. And then, when we came out of that hotel, we had the Bangkok Loop, get to LAX. Standing there, I knew where LAX was. I knew where the ocean was. I knew where Santa Monica was.
Directionally.
As the crow flies, I know exactly where the airport is.
We're not crows, though. That's
the thing. So, intuition is, it's that way. Let's head that way. Wrong. For the viewers who might be going on the race someday. Wrong strategy. You need to know what highways get to LAX and where those highway entrances are. Because LA traffic is not something you want to get caught in, which we did. So that was fun.
So yeah. Any strength that you thought you had going in that wasn't as strong as you thought it was going to be?
I like to think, Scott, that I'm a pretty patient person. Let me scratch that. I like to think that I'm moderately patient. I'm not even moderately patient. I am so far from being patient, it's laughable. And I kind of thought that was an area of opportunity for me, but being on the Amazing Race, it exacerbated that, right? I have a very short fuse, and I think that it exposed a lot of that. So while it wasn't a new thing that I'm realizing about myself, it's definitely something that is more severe than I had given credit to.
And as a fan of the show and watching, like I said, I grew up in LA. It's like there wasn't as much traffic as there should have been when you guys were going there. How do they manipulate these things so you can get around a bit, or is that not staged at all? It looked a little staged in LA.
Not staged at all.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the edit, Scott, didn't show how much traffic we sat in, but we were in bumper-to-bumper traffic for an hour.
That's my LA.
Yeah. I mean, the other teams applauded when we got there, right? Because they were like, what did you do?
What happened to you? You guys were in fourth place.
Well, and it's like, it's a totally different animal too, right? You're coming from New York, and New York's laid out pretty well. You know where you're going most places. LA is a little crazy. I mean, I liked LA because the mountains always told me where was north. So I was able to find myself if I found the mountains. Pittsburgh, I'm not about an hour away from Pittsburgh. it's in a circle. They built the damn roads in a circle. I can never find myself there.
A million bridges. You don't know what's going on.
Oh my goodness. I don't blame you at all. And talk about what was, I mean, you say that you were watching the race during the pandemic when you guys were together. So you kind of got this love of it. What really kind of solidified it for you and made you think this is something you wanted to try?
When we started putting together a notepad on my phone of different things that we were saying and strategies and decisions, we just started kind of memorializing it. And once that notepad started to come together, it was like, okay, maybe we should actually entertain doing this.
Yeah,
we're strategizing.
We had both talked about it before, but we never really took the leap to start the application and audition process, right? Creating the reel, creating the video audition, doing all of those like applications that, I mean, the application process is wild. It's a CBS show, so that's not terribly surprising, but like the application and interview process is like insanity. So it's a lot of work and it's commitment. You have to commit to wanting to be on the show, right? It's not, a video and you're done, right? There are multiple months of steps in between that and getting casted. So we knew that with work the way that it was the right time to do it. And we had just gotten off of this engagement trip and honestly ready to take this very big step in kind of marriage and becoming life partners with each other and all of that. So this was the perfect opportunity to kind of.
Yeah, we thought that would be an interesting relationship dynamic, right? Because a big part of the race is it's a relationship show as much as it is like a travel and adventure show competition. So we thought that this very specific time in our story was particularly interesting to kind of throw us into this craziness and see how we do.
I agree 100%. I mean, that's the first thing I thought when I kind of was reading the story that you guys were recently engaged before this is happening, because we've seen different couples throughout this 35 years or 35 seasons of Amazing Race, some together, some apart. It happens in all reality shows. It's like you are testing, you have that adrenaline junkie, the adventurous, which brings you together, but then you have the, now I'm with you for everywhere and totally depending on you. I mean, when you're traveling, you kind of can use your own strengths, right? But when you're doing this, you're really dependent on the other person to get through it, right?
Yeah, when you're traveling, well, it's just us traveling, we're on our cell phones, we're Googling things, we're checking TripAdvisor, like we're talking to locals, like we're doing all of that stuff. With the Amazing Race, like we're just running around trying to get things accomplished and make sure we're not last to the mat, right? It's different. It's a different type of travel.
And when one of us is a planner who plans things way, way, way in advance, like the Thailand trip that he planned 12 months in advance, when you rip something open and says, do this, do that quickly, it's a different kind of travel for travel.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I bet. Well, and it's just the dynamics is so kind of cool to watch how people kind of play each other. And you really do see, though, that you guys you enjoy doing these things, right? You can really see the fun and the love in your heart for doing it. So I think that's exciting to watch and see how you guys progress through that. And just everybody, is there any team that really you kind of took a shine to off camera that just kind of, these were my ride or dies or anything, or do you are so focused on getting your own game through you don't have time for that?
We had a couple pretty strong alliances. While it's not as strategic as like a Survivor where you're like building alliances and such, there definitely is some of that involved, right? They reintroduced the U-turn this season. It was a blind U-turn, so you didn't know who was voting to U-turn other teams. So that added an element of strategy to the race this year or this season. And so we knew that going into it. And so leg one, it was game on from a strategy perspective. We quickly built a couple of alliances. But I think the strongest alliance was probably Robin and Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, we spent a good amount of time with them early on.
The badass moms.
Just like downtime in the airport, really getting to know each other. And that honestly really helps. And we were just vibing off each other. They're awesome people. I mean, I do have to say the entire cast is absolutely incredible. We're in this group chat where it's active all day, every day. Nice. Super distracting from work, but I love it. We've gotten together in New York for the premiere. And so everyone is incredible. But yeah, they were ones that we were pretty close with.
That's awesome. I told you off air. I mean, everyone chooses favorites. You guys are my favorite, but I have a couple other favorites out there. So it's cool that you guys kind of hang out. Now, from a gay perspective, two things. First off, how did two gay guys go without their phone and just a backpack full of clothes get it through something like that? That seems an impossible task. What was the thing you missed the most while traveling and doing this?
For me, it wasn't really the phone.
Yeah.
I'm when I travel, I prefer to be without it. A lot of days, Scott, I don't even turn my service on. I'll use it for like navigation and GPS, but like I don't want to check my work email. I don't want to check Instagram or any of that. So like that part wasn't hard for me. I'm 41 now, so it was the face creams, the serums, all of the skincare that I missed the most. Oh, you think that's funny?
Well, I think it's funny because, when we were very strategically deciding what was going in our race packs and what wasn't, some lotions and potions made it in.
But not all.
Not all.
But
You
yeah.
are both extremely handsome, and 5-year difference. You honestly can't tell. I mean, you guys look like you're right there. So I'm loving it.
And I'm gonna go off camera.
Yeah.
Second thing, talk about how does the production company come to you as a gay couple and kind of give you assurances you're not going to go into countries where you have to watch certain things or anything? Is there any kind of apprehension at all on your part or the production's part when you're kind of getting ready for this?
That was something that we definitely discussed, and that we
asked
going
during orientation week too.
Yeah, we were going to be aware of, and have our, as my mom would say, have our wits about us. And then, we had a big security briefing meeting in the days leading up to the race when we were all together in LA, to go over a lot of that kind of stuff, protocol, what to do in certain scenarios, what to do when we're in countries where, there might be something that we see or some sort of cultural difference that might raise attention to us or something like that. So yeah, it was on our minds.
Yeah, it was on our minds. We asked a lot of questions during orientation week. It was weird because when Joe and I came back from my birthday/engagement trip, the week we got back, the second half of that trip was in Indonesia. And the week we got back, Indonesia announced that they were outlawing homosexuality.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so it was sort of serendipitous to then be going on the Amazing Race, not knowing where we're going. And then with the potential to travel to Middle East countries or travel to places like Indonesia where it's a crime to be a homosexual. So,
yeah, I mean, it's not lost on us that, not every country is moving in the progressive direction, right? I mean,
we're not really here anymore.
I know, we're ourselves included. So
that I do think that all these reality shows, you see the narrative that they're editing for, right? And we're only 2.5 episodes in. I think we've seen previews for episode 3. I haven't seen that as much. You guys aren't the gay couple. Let's push up the gay. We don't have the different things. Do you feel, just watching back the first 2 episodes, you guys have kind of got a fair treatment on the show so far?
I would say a generous edit is what we've gotten. The first episode, there were some blunders that didn't make the cut, didn't make the edit. And, there's 13 teams. The show's only 90 minutes. A lot has to be cut. You got to think these cameras are with us all day, every day, all night. So there's a lot that gets cut. But I was a little shocked that we had 2 blunders that day in LA one blunder getting to the airport, 1 blunder in Bangkok. Both of those didn't really make the edit, which was fine.
LA, not getting to LAX made the edit. Not as it was portrayed gentler than it was.
Yeah.
And the Bangkok snafu did not make. I went to the
Joe got us lost again, Scott. Joe got us lost again in Bangkok.
Oh my goodness. I brought
us to the wrong park. These park names in the Bangkok suburbs of Thailand have it's letters, just so many letters, and it's tough to when you see it on a map. Yeah, I probably should have.
All your best friends after watching the show are going to give you compasses and things like that for Christmas. That's all there is to it.
I know,
and it's big trouble.
Man, we rely so much on Waze and technology and so much these days. But then in the second episode, we we were kind of surprised that some of the things that we didn't air more on the fun side. Ian played this prank on me that I thought was absolutely hilarious in the moment, super stressful. But he came back from the Lotus Flower Challenge, and I was so excited because I saw him. You know, we see the boat coming from so far away, and we have no idea who's on it, and so we're all kind of like linked arms, waiting to see who it is, yelling.
And everybody was coming back tattered. Two of the girls were in tears. It was a very challenging challenge.
Yeah,
and I knew that going in, right? I knew people were crying at the Lotus thing. Like, I knew it was pretty tough for people, and I knew these guys sitting at the dock would be super like nervous and, you know, worried that we were going to take too long.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was so excited to see their partner, and then when they actually saw their partner's face, they were like, "Oh, what happened over there?" But when so when Ian finally showed up, I recognized that it was him. He said something like, "I couldn't do it. I don't know what happened. I couldn't do it.
I can't get the bouquet right.
Couldn't get the leaves right. We're taking the penalty." And I'm following along on land while the boat's moving. I'm like, "What? What do you mean?
How long's the penalty?
How long's the penalty?" I'm like, "What? No, how?" And then he just started laughing, and I literally collapsed to the ground.
I love that you can keep your sense of humor, because you need, I mean, in all things, you need to have that sense of humor. So that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, looking back on it, you found it was funny too. So that's kind of cool. Like,
yeah, you know, we learned from past teams that watching the show, we have the most fun when we see that they're having a lot of fun. So we wanted to sort of weave that into our racing.
Was there any place on your bucket list, fingers crossed, you were hoping you were going to get to that maybe the show didn't bring you to?
I will say, since I'm fairly certain that the entire race route is public knowledge, but Japan is super high on my list. I've never been. He has. The race didn't go there, and I thought for a second, not for a second, actually, I was like pretty confident that the race would go there. And so, yeah, Japan.
What about you, Ian? Any place you want to go to?
Nothing on my bucket list, I would say, but I did want to check out new countries, and Vietnam definitely checked one of those boxes.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a country that I've been wanting to go to for a while. And it was really cool. It was awesome. And in true race fashion, we got completely off the beaten path, somewhere I would have never have gone if the race wouldn't have taken me. And we went to this town. I wouldn't even call it a city, town in South Vietnam, right?
Yeah, South.
It was awesome.
What do you hope? I mean, you're going there for you guys. It seems like you're going there for the adventure, right? It does not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's just, I want to go have an adventure. That's what your guys' lifestyle. Now looking back on it after experiencing this, what do you think you got out of it, and what do you hope to continue to get out of it, hopefully in the future?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that you can experience a country and a culture without spending a lot of money. The race puts you on a pretty tight budget, right? They're not breaking bands. You're not like going and doing these like very like intricate, luxurious things. Like, you are in with the culture, in with the locals, doing locals things. And it really gives you a feel for the community that you're in. And I think like that's my biggest takeaway from this, Scott, is like, you don't need a lot of money when you're in these places. Actually, you need very little to really experience it.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm going to carry into future traveling with this one is, you know, a lot of times when we're traveling to a new place, you create a list of things to see, and they're typically, you know, the architecture or some statue or some museum or whatever it may be. But this race definitely reminded me to always, you know, talk to people, talk to locals, see what they're doing, and maybe experience some of that with them, because that really is the richest part of traveling sometimes, is just participating in something that they do in their everyday lives. That's just so unique and different and cool, and it teaches you something, and then you bring that back to your everyday life, and that's how you learn and grow, as cheesy as that sounds. But I honestly really think that I got it from the race. I loved experiencing, as Ian said, all the different cultures. And so, yeah, I'm going to definitely take that with me going forward.
I like that. And that was one of my questions as well, because I think being from the LGBTQ community, we're kind of used to being a little outsiders to begin with. We've all had different socioeconomic backgrounds and everything. I think we can appreciate. I mean, we're right in the middle of a war now with Israel Hamas when we're recording this, so we have to really take other cultures into experience. Anyone or any culture you're really bonded with, or you were really able to emphasize with, that really kind of maybe hit you an emotional level?
When oh, the countries have been announced. We were in India, and I think India touched me in a way that I didn't really expect it to, more so because it's like the area that we were in was very poverty stricken, and it was eye-opening to see that this many people could live in such poor conditions. So I think like that kind of stuck with me in a meaningful way, maybe not a great way, right? But like in a very meaningful way, to like be appreciative of like everyday things that us take for granted, running water. So that was like a big thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, some of the other places, it's like, you know, living in New York City, it's kind of orderly, right? The city's a grid, and people are commuting to work in the morning, commuting home. There's the lunch hour. It's very routine. And some of these places that we visited on the race is just, it's complete chaos. I mean, beautiful chaos though, because if you really kind of look through the chaos and see the people and see what they're doing and look at their facial expressions, they are laughing and they're joyful and they're doing their thing, and it might be crazy on the surface to you, but that's how they live, and they're having fun with it, right? They're carrying this crazy bag of fish or whatever it may be down a crazy street, and there's no rules. But that's what's beautiful about it. That's what's awesome.
That is so cool. Love all of that. We're going to have to wrap it up here in a second, but I want to do a little rapid quick fire for you with some of your fellow teammates. They'll never see it, just between you and me. Of your fellow racers, who was the one that was most concerned about making sure they look right all the time?
Ooh. Lena?
Yeah.
Lena or Annalie? Lena or Annalie? That's a toss-up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who of your fellow racers were you surprised about their energy? They were just go, go, go Energizer bunnies.
Joel and Garrett.
Joel and Garrett for sure. Yeah. Joel and Garrett, they stepped up for sure.
And Liz.
Yeah. Liz.
Probably Liz, actually.
Who did the group think, okay, this is going to be this season's TV darlings? Who did you guys all pick someone ahead of time that's going to be, all right, the cameras are going to love you guys?
I thought the cameras would love Annalie, just because she would give that kind of Southern belle charm,
and she's beautiful.
Also
Rob and Corey, just because, you know, right? It's such a unique story, and Corey's easy on the eyes, so I clocked that you know, love that.
Definitely, I agree 100% with that one. And who maybe surprised you the most out of everybody, that really just kind of came through when you didn't expect that any of you guys were going to come through?
I'm saying Annalie again.
Yeah,
because my initial assessment of Annalie and Steve, but more Annalie, was like, oh, you know, she's gonna be cute and Southern and nice, and you know, she's with her dad, and that's like a cute thing, and they'll just be cute. And right from the get-go, she's
on a 10.
She was creating this scenario where she's like, I sourced this book on Thailand, and I'll give you the book for 5 minutes for like $5 or something like that. And she was creating this whole like economic situation.
She bought a book in the airport on Thailand, and then was renting it out to other team members to profit on the book, and then Scott, she was going to return it.
That's amazing. That's
No,
amazing.
Like, oh, we gotta watch her. Like, she's not playing around.
Yeah, for sure.
That's some gameplay. All right, so when you write your autobiography and the Amazing Race chapter comes to a head here, what's going to be the overall theme of the chapter for you guys?
Good question.
I think overall theme for me is going to be mission accomplished with my number one. Right? Like I set out on this journey with him to kind of check the box, prove that we could do it. And we did, right? Like we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish and we're stronger for it. And there wasn't a doubt before going into this show, Scott, that he wasn't my number one, but like this cemented it, right? Like this show really just like, if he can put up with me through that,
Bridge,
we're good.
I mean,
That's a lot to live up to, Joe. All right, give me your side.
I know. Before going on the race, this is going to be cheesy too, but before going on the race, we knew we were going on. We got a celebratory drink, and the theme of that was there's nothing that we can't do, right? So long as it's the two of us, there's nothing that we can't do. And that holds true. I mean, we carried it through the race. We're going to carry that mantra forward. And so that would be the overarching theme of that chapter of our autobiography.
I love
And we
it.
had fun with it.
There you go. That's the most important thing.
That's
I mean,
right.
Joe Moskowitz and Ian Todd, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, you guys were so much fun. You are so much fun. Like I said, we're 2.5 episodes in. I have no idea what's going on here. But so much fun to watch you guys. You represent the community so well. You represent just a beautiful couple, gay, straight, whatever. Thanks so much for taking the time to kind of call in the Left of Str8 show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks so much, Scott. That was a lot of fun.
Now, if they want to follow along in the adventure as it continues and hopefully see honeymoon pictures, where can they find you guys on social media?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram mainly. Mine's at Joe Mosk, and Ian's, he doesn't even really know it, so his is at Ian_A_Wanderer.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Stay on the line for me. Guys, we're going to have a special 5 questions with Joe and Ian coming up next Tuesday. Be sure to look for that. We appreciate you tuning in. Watch The Amazing Race every Wednesday night. This is Scott from the Left of Str8 show saying have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.